And with the spirit of the SPLM leadership, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, I believe we will be able to resolve the issue of Abiy before the birth of the new nation in July this year.
Barnaba Benjamin, Minister of Information and Broadcasting in South Sudan, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us on this occasion. Thousands of protesters are still on the streets of Cairo and other Egyptian cities calling for the end of Hosni Mubarak's reign. These are live pictures of Liberation Square in Cairo, where thousands of protesters have maintained their position for a 14th day. Familiar scenes for the past 2 weeks now as protesters continue to stand firm on their key demand, while some opposition figures respond to the government's call and overtures to enter into negotiations. 14th day of ongoing protests in Tahrir Square. Al Jazeera, meanwhile, has obtained new video of some of the most extreme violence last Wednesday. Andrew Simmons joins me now live from Cairo. Andrew, what can you tell us about this video?
Keita, I first of all have to warn viewers they may find some of the images disturbing. The video was acquired and it shows violence on the day last Wednesday when the anti-government protesters were attacked relentlessly by the pro-Mubarak demonstrators, and this had gone on for a very long time, and the whole mood had turned to fever pitch. The event started round about midnight, and they started in this way. A crowd of anti-government protesters surrounding a pro-Mubarak supporters bus that had driven at speed into their number earlier. It's late last Wednesday night. They try to turn the vehicle over, ripping open the driver's door. There's no escape. Here, the driver's already been pulled out, and he's being lynched. From these pictures, it appears no one else was on the bus, but we can't verify that, and the fate of the driver is unknown. The frenzy of anger continues right through the night into the early hours of Thursday. Across the bridge, pro-Mubarak supporters on the move again, seemingly intent on more confrontation. But it all goes wrong. A mob of anti-government protesters swelling in numbers and showing no mercy. Each of the 9 men are attacked. Revenge for the earlier violence in which many of their numbers were killed. Hatred. While some of the men are led away, beaten as they go, another was singled out. It hasn't been possible to establish how many victims of this night lived or died. This was all filmed by a European cameraman. He says 14 minutes later, there was yet another dimension to the violence. Gunfire on the bridge aimed at anti-government protesters. A laser picks out individuals. This round finds its target. It can't be established at this stage who fired these shots, just as it isn't possible to identify victims or their attackers. The questions over last Wednesday night, Thursday morning, linger.
Andrew, how then do these shocking images fit into the official narrative that we're hearing from several different officials in Egypt?
Well, the official narrative is questionable. What has to be done, and it's already underway, is that thorough investigations as to the events have to take place. We still don't know the exact numbers. Certainly the official numbers of dead are disputed. Of course, the United Nations saying well over 300 died in total, and how many died on the Wednesday and the Thursday morning is unknown. And what has to be said is that the images show a relentless rampage of revenge, really. And the last images you saw, those shots on the anti-government protesters, the gunfire, we used every frame of the video we obtained there. Some of those images were shown Sunday on Al Jazeera, some other from another tape, another camera, and they showed a similar pattern of events where you see this green beam, and some advisors tell us, military advisors tell us, who've seen the pictures, that this may be a handheld laser device to mark people. There are allegations, we understand, from protesters that the military have may have been involved in actually shooting some of their numbers. So that's got to be investigated as well. So really, a lot has to be done. A very large question mark lies over the ugly events of Wednesday and Thursday morning. And of course now, relative calm in Cairo, some level of hope, it seems, as the protesters really are up against it, whereas the whole Liberation Square is becoming like a tented city. It's anybody's guess as to how long this standoff is actually going to go on, Guido.
Andrew, thanks very much. That was Andrew Simmons in Cairo. Now, meanwhile, Egypt's government has taken a few additional steps to appease the protesters. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher has more now on the 14th day of the Egyptian uprising.
It was a tribute to a dead journalist shot doing his job. Ahmed Mahmoud was filming fights between protesters and police on his mobile phone. He was shot in the head. The coffin is empty. His body has yet to be returned to his family. But the emotion and the pain is raw and real.
I feel like I lost a great thing. I lost my partner, I lost my daughter's father, and she needs him.
Cairo is slowly cranking back up to normal. President Hosni Mubarak has held the first full meeting of his new cabinet, sending a clear message he's still in charge. On the streets, shops are opening, banks are functioning, traffic is moving.
The past 7-8 days affected the entire country. The banks were closed, the post offices were not open either. When they reopened yesterday, everything was back to normal, but there are still some queues.
The protest in Liberation Square is now moving into its third week. The people here are getting more organised. The numbers stay the same. The space they're allowed to occupy is getting smaller. Slowly, the army is squeezing the area around the square.
Those who are thinking that we will get tired of sitting in Tahrir Square, we tell them that we are not leaving. Mubarak should leave Cairo.
For the anti-government camp, the worry is the air is being sucked out of these protests, momentum is being lost. The tanks and soldiers are a reminder of what has gone on over the past days and weeks, and a reminder that this crisis is also far from over. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera.
With me now to talk about this a little bit more is Thomas Gergesian, an Egyptian journalist and writer. The government trying to give the impression now, at least, that it is back to business as normal. President Mubarak meeting with the cabinet, Egypt's government now approving a 15% pay raise for public sector workers. Is the government, do you think, now beginning to regain the initiative?
Nobody knows. I mean, especially these kind of cosmetic quick changes that is taking place in Egypt is not reflecting completely on the reality on the ground, including the people who are still staying in the Tahrir Square.
But do you get a sense, though, from the dwindling numbers of protesters,
but
that they're beginning to lose some momentum?
They lose some momentum, but they don't lose. Nobody said that they are giving up. Nobody is announcing that. As a matter of fact, as you know, they are now, from last Friday, they said it's going to be on Sunday, which was yesterday. And then there is possibility of making another big gathering tomorrow, which is Tuesday. And of course, a bigger one on Friday. This is the main momentum.
Obviously, those who are still in Tahrir Square are standing very firm,
yes,
holding on to their key demand.
Yes.
But did the opposition groups who decided to engage in talks with the government potentially deal a deadly blow to this mass movement of people on the streets by entering into discussions when what people arguably wanted was a complete revolution?
I mean, the meeting that took place yesterday, and the end of it was a communique published by most of the people, participants in it. They figure out that it's not really reflecting the wishes and the will of the demands of the people who are gathering in the Tahrir Square. As a matter of fact, six of the youth that participate in that meeting, later with the vice president and first of all with all the group, they said that what was taken is not enough, and they will still continue what they are doing and demanding. Especially, one of the main things is like getting rid of not just the president, getting rid of the emergency law, emergency status, and then trying to dissolve whatever they are demanding to dissolve both the House of the Parliament and the Shura Council.
But in order to do that, in order to bring about real substantive changes, yes, should protesters and the opposition group perhaps push for elections for a constituent assembly which would be tasked with the job of rewriting the constitution in order to really make this a complete overhaul of the system, or should they be pushing for presidential elections simply with President Mubarak gone?
I mean, this is the wishful thinking of people like us. You can do that, but
why is it wishful thinking? That's what happened in France after the revolution.